Hello and welcome to this special HuddleCam HD live broadcast. Here we are in August of 2020. So much change has happened in the education industry that we wanted to do a live demonstration of our auto tracking camera and the new software features that are helping to support lecture capture efforts at universities, colleges, and K through 12 educational schools throughout the world. With me, I do have Julia Sherwin and Tess Protesto. Thank you for joining me, both of you. It's happy to have you here.
It's great to be here, Paul.
Thanks for having us, as always.
I wanted to start by kind of a quick conversation about what is going on out there. Julia, you have children in the high school and middle school age range, and they're about to head back to school in the fall, but it's going to be a little different than years past.
I do, absolutely. It is going to be different. My younger children have a hybrid model, so they are both in person and online, and my oldest child is going to be completely virtual in high school. So, definitely there are challenges there, but with those challenges come great opportunities. An article I was reading today was so interesting and technically Philly, and it was a guest author by Laura Otten, who is the head of the Master of Science fully online nonprofit leadership curriculum at LaSalle University. And she just talked about the power of virtual learning. So of course, the technology has to be there, right? We're talking today about auto tracking cameras and, your learning management system and things like that. But the things that the instructor can do to really make it just top tier level of learning that caters to the online environment with both synchronous and asynchronous lessons. It's just really powerful what can be done in a virtual environment.
Yes, and obviously it's a great time of change. There's a lot going on. Julia, you helped me kind of come up with the outline for this book, Technology Tools for Online Education, and we're giving this away for free. You can go to huddlecamhd.com/techedu and pick up a copy. This includes an online course as well that teachers can take to kind of get up to speed, because obviously it's a time of great change. We're hoping that teachers can seize this opportunity. You and I were chatting, Julia, about some of those opportunities. An interesting one is the chance for them to flip the classroom and allow students to digest these lectures and the materials in a kind of a different environment where, yes, they are at home, but they have the ability to stop and restart lectures and digest the content more than once, forever, right? Not just one time. So I think on both sides, there's some interesting opportunities on the learner's side and also on the educator's side. But both sides really need to adapt to a new way of learning and teaching.
Absolutely. You made a great point. I remember back in my days at Rutgers University, and many of my fellow students, we had little audio recorders because we couldn't take notes quickly enough. And I know some of those that sounds like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Just to imagine that you could capture all the notes quickly enough. And today with virtual learning, you don't have to worry about that. If your professor is too boring and lectures too much, well, you can tune out a little bit and tune back in and then decide what nugget of information you need the most. And the learning management systems have all of that information there for you.
Yeah, one thing that is exciting for me, and it's something that students can apply to their own lifestyle and skills that they can apply to their entire lives, is that students are now a little bit more in control of their learning journey. They're not coming into school, being captive in a classroom, and then having to digest everything right then and there. Students kind of have their own they're in a little bit of the driver's seat. Obviously, there's learning management tools and there's a curriculum. And then teachers, on the other hand, are also shifting in the sense that instead of being so much a lecturer and kind of a one-way broadcaster, they're turning into a little bit more of a mentor and a guide. And so providing as many tools as possible is obviously important. And what we're going to talk about today is how to provide high quality videos that can populate these learning management systems, which I believe is going to really change the educational industry. So let's take a look at the Simple Track 2. And we're going to talk a little bit about the details of what makes this camera so great for lecture capture in a classroom environment. The first thing that's so important is that it automatically will follow the teacher. And as you know, teachers like to get up in front of whiteboards and blackboards, and they like to talk, and they like to obviously teach. And so this camera right here has a reference camera. This is actually a 4K wide angle reference camera that is able to steer a 20x optical zoom camera. And so we'll talk about why that's so important. A 20x optical zoom camera like this can zoom in from up to 50 to 60 feet away from the teacher and still follow them with the head and shoulders shot. So we'll look at this camera, what makes it so great, and then also the connectivity of the camera. Really quickly before I do a live demo, we've got the USB, so we can do live Zoom conferences and Adobe Connect and Google Meet. We have a control system which would integrate with the touchscreen controllers like from Extron and Crestron. We have an SDI connector which can do a long distance run to lecture capture recording systems like Panopto, Echo 360, MediaSite. We have a DVI connection. It seems like a lot of connections, but this one actually comes in handy. This is basically like an HDMI cable, and you can plug that right into a TV to give teachers the ability to have a little confidence monitor to see exactly what they're doing. And then finally, an Ethernet cable to remotely control the camera, which again, we're going to look at quickly. There's an SD card for recordings and an audio input as well. So that's the full look at the camera there. And let me do a quick presentation, and then I'm going to do right into a live demo. So thank you all for being here. I'm really excited about this. Feel free to ask any questions that you'd like. I'll keep my eye on the chat room here. Just want to say hi to Dean joining us from Oregon. Hello, NRD Berg, and just say hi in the chat. Happy to have you all here and definitely want to answer any of your questions. So we mentioned quickly there's a 20x optical zoom, which can really zoom in far and enhance the ability for students to see the notes that are on the whiteboard or the blackboard. And that 20x optical zoom camera is basically steered, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it's driven by the wide angle reference camera. We're going to look at that today. I want to do a couple examples of what 20x optical zoom can do. And I meant to change that last one to 75 feet, sorry. But these are just some examples of how far away some of the camera could be. So if the camera's 25 feet away, that'd be like maybe a square classroom. You can zoom in up to 4 inches. So literally a head, right? 4 inches wide, you can zoom all the way into. At 30 feet away, it's 1 foot 6 inches. At 40 feet, it's 2 foot. At 50 foot, it's 2 foot 6 inches. And at 75 feet, it's 4 foot. So the sweet spot for this camera really is in the neighborhood of like 25 to 50 feet. You can get a head and shoulders view of a teacher and have it track that teacher automatically 24/7, right? Anytime the teacher is ready to go into that classroom. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention here, and let me share this with our folks on Zoom here, is that we have the ability to connect multiple connections at the same time. So the Ethernet we'll show today is going to allow you to remotely manage the camera. And there's a lot of schools and universities that might have 10, 20, 100 of these cameras. And it's nice to be able to remotely manage all of them with our software. And we'll show you guys the HuddleCam HD Simple Track 2 software. Now the DVI connection or HDMI, which is easily converted to, can be used for a lot of different reasons, but one is what I call the confidence monitor, and it's an HDMI output to show the output to the teacher so they could see on a screen what the camera is seeing and tracking. Now, SDI is one that might be new for some of us, but it's really great for dedicated lecture capture systems. So if you look at lecture recording systems from Panopto, from Echo 360, and different places, you will see that you can quickly and easily connect that to a lecture capture system. Now, USB 3.0 obviously is plug and play with a computer, and this is nice for those scenarios where you want to use Zoom, Google Meet, or Adobe Connect because it connects just like a webcam. So it really makes this camera quite versatile. Now, why is lecture capture so important today? Well, basically, what educational institutions need right now is they need easy to use, high quality video cameras. They want to record video in HD. In fact, full HD, which is 1920 by 1080p. They may want to incorporate these into larger AV systems. That's popular in higher education. And it's very common to connect these cameras to other systems such as, like as we mentioned, lecture capture recording systems and web conferencing systems. So teachers, they've got a lot on their plates, not to mention that they have to deliver an engaging lecture. So they're dealing with learning these learning management systems, the video platforms, and video communications and conferencing. So by putting in an auto tracking camera, the need to have somebody follow the teacher around with an actual camcorder is now automated, and it's just one less thing for everybody to worry about. So I'm excited to do the live demonstration. The process of lecture capture is really just recording the video and audio in a classroom as a teacher makes their presentation. And then the learning management system is used by the schools and the students, right, to take the online course. And it has a lot of different resources: Blackboard, Desire to Learn, Moodle, Kaltura, all great examples of this. Now, I wanted to mention here at HuddleCam HD, we do have some really great work from home webcams that have just come out. This is one that a lot of people have been talking about, the HuddleCam HD Pro, available with USB and with NDI, which is really popular. And these webcams are great for work from home. There's lecture capture happening from home. So it's something to keep in mind. Not every teacher has access to a classroom where you might install an auto tracking camera. So here at HuddleCam HD, we do have solutions for working from home, and that extends to teachers who are hosting Zoom calls and conferences. In fact, the reason why I wrote this book, Technology Tools for Online Education, was to help teachers gain the tools to create engaging online videos that they can use for learning and flipping the classroom, even if it is just with the webcam. You really are lucky if your school can afford to put an auto tracking camera system, and not every school can afford it. Luckily, we are trying to make one of the most affordable auto tracking cameras on the market. And we're going to do a live demonstration of it. I think it's time that we should do a live demonstration, don't you think? In just a moment. So wanted to show that off. Let's jump into a live demo because I don't want to do all talking here. I want to jump right into a live demo. So let me go ahead and walk into where we have the auto tracking camera set up, and I'm going to do a live demo. Here we go. All right, so I'm just going to walk over to these whiteboards here. It's a little bit down the hallway, but I'm basically here. And then as soon as I walk into the space, the camera will start tracking me. Now, it looks like we got to hit the Start Track button on the software. So we're going to go ahead and do that, Mike. And I'll notice because this camera will start following me. There we go. Okay, cool. So you guys should be able to see the software and the live video output. We'll cut to the live video output in a second here, so you guys can see exactly 1080p quality of. One of the things you guys saw as we were setting up the software is that we wanted to keep the entire whiteboard in view, and we wanted it to be zoomed in to the point where students who are watching the learning management recorded videos can actually read everything that's going on these whiteboards. So let's say, I know a lot of teachers like to kind of spread out, but let me start here, for example, and I'm just going to write auto tracking Oh, there we go. Camera. Gotta learn how to use a marker. All right, so there we go. So that's over here, and then we walk over here. I'm going to write a little lower. Should be in view. This camera has SDI. It also has DVI, which is similar to HDMI. It can basically be used the same way with an adapter. And it has USB 3.0. But it also has, I'm going to put a little dot here, it has IP, which allows us to connect it to all kinds of software. It can stream directly to various places, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But essentially, the camera kind of looks like this, and then it's got a wide body, and it has all the different connection points at the bottom. Now, we talked about how this lens is 20x, so you can really zoom in quite far, and we'll look at what that means and how that works. Slides in a moment here. And then it also has that wide angle reference camera that, as you can see, can capture an entire space, and it's used intelligently to steer this camera. So all the way over here, it's just going left and right. We have the tilt disabled because it's not really necessary in most scenarios. You can turn tilt on, but it's not always necessary. So in this scenario, we have tilt off. It can do tilt. It can actually do zoom as well. We have zoom locked because we want the zoom to be specifically in to capture all of these whiteboards, okay? And we have the track speed at a specific 5. So we've got the speed is an important variable. And I believe that tracking speed is at 5. All right. Extent of the demonstration that we wanted to show, and we'll cut back to the studio. I'll walk right over there and see you guys in just a second. All right, so sorry about my audio cutting out a little bit over there. The microphone just barely reaches that space, but hopefully that was a good demonstration of how the auto tracking camera works. I have a couple more things to talk about in our presentation, and then we'll go right to Q&A, and then I want to demonstrate the software, which is really important as well. So, we talked about lecture capture. That's for, you can get USB 2.0 cameras, which are affordable and really high quality. But you can also get USB 3.0 cameras, which generally allow you to do a little bit higher quality digital zoom and things of that nature. So we looked at the HuddleCam HD Pro. The cool thing about this camera for a teacher that's kind of in a smaller space is that you can zoom in and out. It has USB and HDMI. And you can see here it's got digital pan tilt zoom. So you can zoom in and out and have camera presets on a camera that has no moving parts. So it's a very great camera for that. Now, quickly wanted to talk about UVC controls. That allows you to control the camera inside of Zoom or the HuddleCam HD software. So that's pretty nice. And that's Zoom video conferencing that works with. Here's an example of Tess actually in front of the Simple Track 2 using the camera there. Here's an example of Echo 360. Wanted to kind of briefly show this. It's kind of cool. This is Echo 360, and what it allows you to do is actually have the students actually get 2 options for watching the playback of the video. One side is the capture of the teacher's presentation. The other side is the full screen video of the Simple Track 2. So Echo 360 is an interesting one where it actually combines 2 HD video feeds, And then the student can just click the one that they would like and see it in full HD. And when you've got a teacher that's working on, really in-depth notes like that, you really do want to see it in full HD. It's difficult, even on a recording, to see that. I was talking to multiple universities that just said, the upgrade to full HD, 1920 by 1080, just makes it so much easier for the students to see the recordings. So in that scenario, just to quickly kind of go over what some of the schools are doing, SDI is connected from the SimpleTrack 2 into the Echo 360 Pro. And then they have what's called a Crestron digital matrix. And what that does is that could take like 2 or 3 or 4 video sources. One might be a document camera. One might be a laptop input. One might be something else. I'm not sure all of them. And then it can output that as the second source into the Echo 360, allowing the students to see both at once. So that's kind of how that is set up in a lot of schools. Another interesting kind of workflow here for teachers is that once they set up their Echo 360 Pro, this is a university, Case Western University, that they have it automatically published to the learning management system. So in Canva, it automatically will update into Biology 101 or History 101 as each class happens. Now, this was back when, it was simply supplementary for the students. Now that it is the course itself, teachers are really taking it super seriously, and it's quite interesting. It's flipping that traditional classroom where now we're really shifting to the learner-centered model, where students themselves are really taking the driver's seat in their learning experience, and the content is being delivered, online, where collaborative discussions and Zoom conferences and Google Meet sessions are really, replacing the in-person, if you will, collaborative experiences. And it's definitely a paradigm shift in general. So that's pretty much it. Now we can just go directly to some questions. Now, how far can the camera zoom in? I want to answer this question. And quickly, I'll actually refer back to a slide that we had here earlier. It is a 20x optical zoom scenario. So it depends on how far the camera is from the subject. But if the camera is 25 feet from the subject, it can zoom into 4 inches of width. At 30 feet, it's 1 foot 6 inches. At 40 feet, it is 2 foot. And at 50 feet, it is 2 foot 6 inches. So that just gives you an idea. Now, let's see, what else do we have? Here is the link to get the book, by the way. I have another answer from Dean Sir asking if the Perfect Track product is still around. We no longer offer the Perfect Track. It was a decent solution, but it was a little hard to operate. So we've standardized on the SimpleTrack 2 because the software is so easy to use. So I think that we'll end on a quick demonstration of the software of this camera so you guys can get a full look at how it works. And I'll answer any final questions that we have. So let's play a quick little video clip of the software. Welcome to the HuddleCam HD SimpleTrack 2 Software Setup Guide video. This video assumes that you have watched the SimpleTrack 2 setup video and you've already connected your camera to your local area network. The SimpleTrack 2 is the second generation of HuddleCam HD's auto tracking camera line, designed to automate EPTZ camera operations by following subjects at the front of a room or on a stage. The free auto-tracking camera management software is available for download at huddlecamhd.com/resources and allows for remote camera operation of the HuddleCam HD SimpleTrack 2 features that include multi-camera viewing, EPTZ camera controls, and auto-tracking configuration. When you first open the software, you will be in the Device Management tab of the interface. There are 3 tabs inside this software, which include Device Management, which is an area for managing one or more SimpleTrack 2s, a main view area, which is for controlling the SimpleTrack 2 and configuring the tracking system, and a remote playback area, where you can view and download videos or photos stored on the micro SD card, which is not included, that can be used with this camera. In the device management area, you can see all of the SimpleTrack 2 auto tracking cameras available on your network. You can click the search button at the bottom section of the software to search for new or additional cameras. Note, the camera utilizes DHCP by default. If your PC is also utilizing DHCP, this search should find your camera. You can also manually add devices to this camera management tool by clicking the Add Device button at the top. This button will allow you to manually add a camera when you already know the IP address and port assigned to the camera. Note, the default app port is 5000. The default username and passwords are admin. Once you have added your camera to the management software, you can use the Main View tab at the top of the software to begin customizing the auto tracking parameters for your space. In the Main View tab, you will see 4 open camera areas, along with some camera operation tools in the bottom left. In the camera grid, you can select an empty cell and right-click the camera to select a video feed for that cell. You can choose between Teacher Close-Up, which is the main RTSP feed, Teacher Panorama, which is the sub-RTSP feed from the reference camera, the Teacher Close-Up RTSP feed number 3, or the Teacher Panorama, which is an RTSP number 4. Once you have a camera selected, you can control the pan, tilt, zoom, focus, iris, OSD, and presets of the camera using the tools available in the bottom left. Once you are ready to set up your camera for auto tracking, you should start by setting up 2 important camera presets. Preset 0 is used to frame your stage, and preset 1 is used to frame your subject. When setting preset 0 for your stage, adjust your zoom level to show the entire area in which your subject is expected to move around within. Once framed as best as possible, set preset 0 to tell the software this is your stage. Click the Set button to store this stage preset as preset 0. Next, zoom in your camera to frame your subject. This is the most the camera will zoom in, and it's important to consider the background elements that you want to keep in frame while recording the video. For example, if you want the camera to track your subject, but also keep a whiteboard in frame, make sure you zoom in just enough to show the top of the whiteboard and the subject together. Next, enter preset 1 in the preset box and click Set. Now you have set the stage preset and the subject preset. Next, you can set overall tracking and blocking zones. Camera managers can quickly set up tracking zones where they want a subject to be tracked and blocking zones for each area, such as a projector screen or a window with movement that could interrupt the automatic movement. Click the Settings button to open the tracking options for the camera. Note, the tracking zone encompasses anywhere the talent is intended to move around, while removing any possible distractions, such as an audience. The blocking zones are set anywhere that could be tracked but shouldn't be, such as individuals walking by a doorway or faces reflected on a table. Click the Track Area button and drag the green rectangle over the area in your space you would like the camera to track a subject. Click the Blocking Zone checkboxes to drag red rectangles over the spaces you do not want the camera to view as trackable motion within the set tracking area. Using blocking zones outside of the defined tracking area can cause irregular behavior. Note, blocking zones should only be placed within the defined tracking area. Usage outside of the tracking area can result in unreliable performance of the tracking system. Next, click the Save button to save your configuration. You can then click Basic 2, the tab next to Basic 1, to open up some fine-tuning tracking options. In Basic 2, you can adjust the fine-tune parameters to aid the camera in automatically tracking your talent. The first 4 options allow you to enable or disable features such as tilt motion, auto zoom, permanent track, and outside platform. Most setups do not require tilt motion, and disabling this feature will allow the camera to pan left and right without adding additional tilt movement. Other setups may desire a static zoom level. If you disable automatic zooming, it will set the optical zoom of the camera at a specific level. Permanent track is when the camera will attempt to track any moving object. Outside platform is when the camera will attempt to track people even when outside of the tracking zone. You can adjust parameters to match your camera's tracking sensitivity, how the camera responds to movement, to match how your talent moves around the stage. You can also adjust the pan, tilt, and zoom speeds, which customize the look and feel of your production by slowing down or speeding up the camera's automated movements. The zoom limit option allows you to adjust how far the camera will zoom in. If you have auto zoom enabled, the system will attempt to maintain the example framing from preset 1 on the talent as they move. The lost timeout adjustment will allow you to define the amount of time the camera will wait if it loses a subject before the camera moves to a predefined action, which you can set in the drop-down menu below. You can choose a preset number for the camera to call if it loses the talent. You can also set a preset for the camera to return to when the camera powers on. Click Save and save the adjusted settings. When you're finished adjusting the tracking parameters, click Exit to return to the main view. Next, let's take a look at the remote playback section of this software. Note, to utilize remote playback, you will need to install a micro SD card into the micro SD card slot on the back of the camera. You can start by clicking on an available camera in the device list. Note, to enable recording onto an SD card, go to Device Management, click on the camera, and select Remote Configuration. In the Record tab, click Enable Video and press OK. A green status light will appear. In the Remote Playback tab, Video area, you will see the feed of a video recording you have selected. You can choose to watch the video in normal, slow, or fast speeds. You can access video recordings from a drop-down menu, which is organized by time and date. Once you have a video selected, you can decide to play or pause the video. You can take a snapshot from the video or download the video at any time. Finally, let's take a look at the advanced features available to you. From the main device management page, you can click on a camera and select Remote Configuration. This area will open up options to configure the camera's networking settings, streaming settings, RTMP options, protocol options, firmware upgrades, administration options, and recording settings. In the Streaming tab, you have access to the main RTSP streaming settings. The SimpleTrack 2 supports up to 4 unique streams, and you can adjust the resolution, bitrate, and frame rate for each. In the Recording tab, you can assign a dynamic or static IP address for the camera, in addition to the settings for the port numbers for RTSP and camera control. In the RTMP area, you can set up the camera to stream up to 4 RTMP destinations. Simply enter the RTMP destination you would like the camera to stream to and click Save. In the Protocol area, you can set the control parameters for your camera. The Upgrade tab allows you to view the camera's current firmware option and choose to upgrade the firmware. The Username and Password area allows you to update the information for the camera's security, change the camera's name, which will show up in the software, adjust the camera's time, which is used for recordings, and the time zone information. Finally, you can enable recording in the Record tab. This area gives you the status of the SD card required for recording, along with the card capacity and remaining memory. The new HuddleCam HD SimpleTrack 2 auto tracking camera software is completely customizable for each lecture space. The software is designed to optimize the auto tracking camera's performance using a wide-angle reference camera and a 20x optical zoom video camera. The 20x optical zoom EPTZ camera head is driven by the auto tracking software so that the camera can follow presenters at the front of a room 24/7, 365 days a year without the need for a camera operator. Every room is generally a little different, but with a one-time setup, this latest SimpleTrack 2 software, any room can accommodate a high-quality auto-tracking camera experience that can connect to any HD SDI, HDMI, USB 3.0, or IP recording or streaming solution. If you have any questions about setting up your HuddleCam HD SimpleTrack 2, you can reach out to the support team at support@huddlecamhd.com or submit a ticket at help.huddlecamhd.com. All right, welcome back. I have a couple comments I wanted to respond to. Loud Music Pigeons asking if the SDI port does support 1080p 60, and it does. So if you're in a 60 frames per second scenario, you can use 60 frames per second. How does this perform in a house of worship scenario? There's a lot of houses of worship that use this. As you saw in the software, you do want to take a look at the tracking area and the blocking zones. So if there's anything like a television or a giant LED wall behind the pastor, it can throw it off a little bit. You can use those blocking zones, but it does a combination of facial tracking and motion tracking. As long as the pastor is the main object on stage, it will do a great job. And unless there's any other questions, that's about it. John also is asking, is there any reason this would not follow a pastor in a church setting? The only way it would not work is if there was a massive LED wall showing lots of, imagery. That could be an issue, but otherwise it should work great. It obviously has the optical zoom to shoot from far away, which I know churches are large spaces. All right, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, and we appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can email partners@huddlecamhd.com. Thanks. Bye.